Hi everyone, welcome to InfoSec Live, where we give you, our audience, the chance to learn from and interact with our industry's leadership. And today we have a very special episode where we get to hear from Jessie Bolton, who's making some serious waves in the talent acquisition space with Bolt Resources. But before we get onto the show, my name's Simon Lindstead, the founder of the InfoSec Live community and also your host for the show. And by sharing stories and best practice over the last few months, it's led to over 100,000 views of our content here on YouTube by you, our amazing 7,500 subscribers. So a huge thank you for your engagement. And thanks to that support, it's also led to the launch of our in-person community-driven events in both the UK and the US with a focus on knowledge sharing, networking, and definitely no sales pitches. So if you are a vendor and interested in sponsoring our events, please do reach out to me today. But meanwhile, back in the community, and if you haven't joined already, we've got group study sessions, CV workshops, networking sessions, job alerts, and over 5,000 members helping each other every single day. So make sure you check out the community if you haven't already using this QR code right here. If I can bring it up at the right time, that is. There we go. If you'd like to support the InfoSec Live community, or indeed buy me a cheeky decaf coffee, we do have a way you can show your appreciation with 3 tiers of membership right here on YouTube, allowing you to show your support in any way that you can. But whether you join or not, being here and engaging with our content is what really matters. So if you're watching this live, please do like and subscribe. We want to make these events as interactive as possible. So make sure you drop any questions you might have in the chat. Now, it's time for the show. So let's bring Jessie on and dig into what it means to be a cyber career coach. That was clearly the wrong intro video. Jessie, are you ready? I'm pressing wrong buttons and everything today, Jessie. Look.
Oh, good.
Welcome.
Yeah. Welcome. Thank you very much for having me, Simon. I am so happy to be here. It's nighttime where you are, right?
It is. Well, it's 5 p.m. here. It must be about 11 where you are, is it?
It is. Yeah. I love this. Yeah. So what does it mean to be a cyber career coach we'll be talking about today? Yes.
Yeah.
And we'll be taking questions, right?
We will, all the way through. Yes, as long as I can press the buttons at the right time, we will.
All good.
So I suppose before we kick off into what it means to be a cyber career coach, what would be great is if you could give us all a little bit of background about yourself and how you got to where you are now, Jessie.
Oh, yes, there's quite a bit there, but I started off as an IT recruiter for a few years, and I bounced around a little bit, just kind of getting the lay of the land, and really fell in love, if you will, with the workforce, IT, cybersecurity, but also in between that, I was looking at the way the industry was, the recruiting industry, and one thing they don't want to hear when they're interviewing you to recruit is, I want to help people. They want to hear some other things. And so I knew I wanted to help people. I loved talking on the phone. You couldn't get me off. And I took that, and through some challenges and hills and valleys, I started Bolt Resources, my recruiting agency, but with the idea of the workforce being first. So very much people driven, being the platform, the one-stop platform for how do I get into cyber, and to how do I level up? Where's my next?
Which is the complete opposite to, no offense, other recruiters out there. in the world, but it seems the complete opposite way to how it usually works. I mean, all you see on LinkedIn are job seekers moaning about the lack of response, the lack of engagement, the lack of help that they're getting.
Mhm.
So tell me how you do that differently, Jessie.
Well, cyber career coaching is partly to do with it. So I recruit, yes, but it's been a blessing to I keep the end game in mind. So really it's what value can I bring to the candidate, the applicant, the person looking for their job. And I feel their pain. I say, okay, what can I do with this and how can I help you succeed? And so it's my love for people and cybersecurity overall. There's so much work to be done. And I believe the way I do it differently is enabling them to succeed, regardless whether I have a job or not. There's so many things, so many factors that go into landing your next cyber job, even if you're experienced. So,
do you think the industry doesn't help? Let me reframe that, or let me put some context around that. So, lots of people like myself 3 years ago wanting to come into the industry, not really knowing anyone in here. All the hype that you read from certain boot camps, certain programs out there is that you can become a cyber pro, in 12 to 16 weeks and land yourself a job on 100,000 or more a year. Do you find yourself dealing with managing expectations as much as anything else?
yes, much so. Absolutely. I have real unrealistic expectations, both on the hiring side, but also the candidate side. And
Yeah.
to me, it's no longer the candidates. We have to share the responsibility and accountability. And I think that the workforce, everyone from those who are aspiring to be a cyber professional, but also already in this to CISO level, they don't know they're doing their part.
Yeah.
So if it's anyone's fault, who should put their money where their mouth is?
Yeah, I think you're right. It's no one's fault.
Right.
I didn't manage my own expectations very well when I entered the field, and I see that we've got Daniel Canal in the audience. And Daniel, you're a very similar age to me, so I'm going to ask Jessie your question, if that's okay. Daniel says, "I'm 54 years old, trying to get a new job in the cybersecurity field, but I'm struggling to find an entry-level job because of my age. Any suggestions?" Now, I would jump in quickly there before Jessie does and say, your age could be a benefit to you if you've got some pretty good experience out there.
Are y'all loving my hair today? This is fun.
Yeah.
So, yeah, to that question, that's common, by the way. What happens when the manager in IT or anywhere comes in, has dedicated so much to their career and then has to start at the bottom? How do you do that? And there's many factors that go into it. So I'm going to read. Is it Nail?
It was, I believe it was, hold on, Daniel Canal.
Daniel.
Yeah,
No.
just here.
Okay. Struggling to find an entry-level job after. And so there's many factors that come to mind. And I'm thinking ageism is an issue. Gen Z takes up about 50% of the cyber workforce now and only growing. And so you're competing against, and I keep it real, y'all. It's not, ageism is a problem, and I'm not here to, make anyone uncomfortable, but we have to position ourselves, and that goes to personal branding. Entry level, you're going to have to start somewhere at IT support or analyst, one, if you're willing to do that. And then what are you doing to position yourself in the marketplace? Are you, because old school, and this is across the board, old school ways aren't working anymore.
Yeah.
So one-click apply, you can one-click apply all day, but that's not going to get you the job. You can get your certifications, but guess what? That's not going to get you the job.
No.
Your resume isn't going to get you the job. And it sounds like gloom and gloom, but it's really you. You have to reposition yourself, and you have to gain that exposure and build your credibility in the marketplace first. And how do you do that?
And would you argue that at 54 years old, I don't know what your background is, Daniel, I don't know what experience you bring to the table, but I know from working in a regulated environment, holding governance, oversight and control functions in financial services, had I wanted to come into the GRC space within this industry, it would have potentially been an easier route in for me than trying to become the world's best pen tester, which clearly was never going to happen back in 2021. Do you think looking at your previous skills and your previous experience and how you can relate that can be important as well?
Absolutely. So really understanding who you are and what your skill set is. So if you're coming from a financial background, absolutely GRC. But if we're not careful to assess that at the beginning, we're going to go down this rabbit hole, and maybe we'll get a job there, maybe we won't. And so if y'all aren't familiar with the NICE framework, I would recommend starting there, visiting the NICE workforce framework. And I can, I don't know if there's a way to share that information.
Actually, if you drop any links that you've got that we're going to share on here, if you drop them in the private chat, I can then drop them straight into the main chat for you.
Perfect. Okay.
I noticed that Daniel's just said he's got 20 years experience in the computer hardware field. So it's not like it isn't relevant experience either, Daniel.
Right. So what's happening, upskilling, yes, reskilling. Even if he did all of that, and it sounds like he's a perfect candidate for cybersecurity, but how is he going to get that job? And that's where it falls back on the employer, the recruiters. So let me go ahead and get that. And then
you get that. What I'm going to do while you're doing that, if it's okay with you, is I'm going to drop your LinkedIn profile in the chat as well, so people can connect with you. Is that okay?
Excellent. Please do. Yes. So here it is. The NICE workforce framework will help you map things out, your skill set, your knowledge and capabilities. And then there's also cybersec.org, which will help you map out your career. And that's something that I would be able to help you with. And if you try to get a job, you go interview for an entry-level position and you don't say the right things, or you don't have that particular certification, then what do you say? And so positioning your soft skills and your strengths is number one, and having some sort of map. And they're going to ask you, what do you want to do in cybersecurity? And if you don't answer that,
I think again, that's down to us as candidates to own the fact that we need to research the industry and look at more than two jobs, which is SOC analyst and pen tester, which is all I thought there was 3 years ago. And as Adam Dennis rightly says in the chat there, hey Adam, thanks for tuning in. Building relationships with people in the industry is also critical, right?
Huge. It's a game changer. One thing I preach is it's not who you know, it's who knows you.
Yeah.
So it goes back to how many events are you showing up to, and how many people are you talking to? So it's a balancing act, right?
It is. Let me move you to the top, so when I bring these comments up, it doesn't cut your head off the screen. I'll let it do that for mine.
I get into it. I feel like I'm with you.
Brian Bobo, CISO. Brian was a CISO for a long time, and he says the best cyber people come from other IT backgrounds. So Daniel, if that doesn't give you a little bit of hope there about breaking into the field, I don't know what would.
Yes, it does. So IT is great, but I think a common misconception, we're having trouble as an industry attracting people to cybersecurity. And part of that is we aren't doing a very good job, we as in cyber professionals, going outside of the industry to let people know you don't necessarily have to be from an IT background. Your soft skills and your natural capabilities and strengths can transition very well, because there's over 50 a lot of jobs in cyber. And yes, people think hacking, people think technical.
But there's also for people like me, there's sales as well, right? I mean,
sales, cyber, yeah.
Cyber sales, I think, is an area that not many people look at getting into. And you could argue from the state of the industry that we could do with some fresh faces and fresh outlooks in that part.
Agreed. We desperately need to.
I won't start jumping on that hobby horse of moaning. And Adam Dennis, definitely a game changer, Jessie. I know Simon and he benefited from that connection immensely. I have, Adam. I really have benefited from connecting with you. Thank you very much. Another quick question here from Daniel that he mentioned first off. What's your opinion about remote work in the cybersecurity field? Because this is another misconception, perhaps, that we see a lot.
This may not be the popular opinion, but I believe that remote work, if you are tenured in the field, sure.
Yeah.
And now I don't know where this is going with the question, but I believe if you are newer to the field, your first few years, it's very important to go into the office and be a part of what that, of course, culture, but be able to bounce questions off of people. That's how you learn. And it's very hard. Cybersecurity is every day. You really don't have time to not think about it.
Yeah.
It's a balancing act between work life, right, and family, but it will take a toll on our mindset, our mental state, and we need to. Not only are we learning, like we're drinking from a fire hose, but we're also, what do we do with that? And we get anxious. And I think going into the office helps if you're newer a few years.
I agree. I mean, it is a controversial opinion, and it's one that not
Yeah.
everyone will agree with. But I look back on my working life, and I've learned so much from people, even standing at water coolers or waiting in the kitchen while you're making a coffee. It's those organic conversations that spring up that I think don't just help your knowledge, but help you build meaningful connections as well. And I'm not saying you can't do that on Teams,
Mm-mm.
but I do think the face of it might be my age. Maybe that's why I'm saying
Maybe that's what, well, maybe mine too. But I do believe that, and if it's not that, if it is remote, then staying connected with your team and your manager and your leadership is very important. And you can do that in creative ways. We can talk about, I see AI
Are you
and
ready? You're doing what I do. You're trying to do two things at once. Look,
ADHD is a
I know. Tell me about it.
thrill. Oh,
I'll work my way down the questions. Before we get to the AI one, let me ask Itz's, because she asked it a little while ago. Are there any trends you're seeing for cybersecurity roles to look for when trying to break in with little to no experience?
trends. Okay. Yes. Trends. I think everyone thinks AI.
Yeah,
That we got to be very careful with how we use how we reference AI, and I think there's some confusion about, will chat GPT or AI, LLMs replace my job? It will not. It's very important to recognize that the sooner you can get your hands on it and learn the commands and really get to know AI, the more it will help embellish and improve, I guess, improve upon your own job. So whatever that is, at any level, but especially in cybersecurity, start investigating, exploring, and looking into that. That's number one, because if you don't, it's you can be left behind.
yeah.
You won't be replaced, but it's very important. Um, and then cloud computing is going. It's major for different reasons. And I'm no tech guru by any means, but these are the buzzwords I talk to CISOs about, and I'm going to the conferences. I'm hearing about it, and then I would say, on the soft skills, from a soft skills perspective, your leadership skills. We are also in a leadership gap in an organization.
Yeah.
So mid-market to enterprise, we are, they're retiring out, or there's managers versus leaders, and who are you in the mix? What are you doing to lead your team or be proactive in your role? And that's, if you can demonstrate that by building your relationships and initiating a conversation or topics online. There's so much that goes into that, to how you can demonstrate it. But then the other thing, your business acumen. If you're new to the industry, if you can learn why cybersecurity is really important, not just what you're learning, in your Security Plus exam or
Yeah.
what have you, but really why, are security controls important? How does your role tie into the whole business and the bottom line?
And I think from all the leaders I've spoken to and those trying to break in, people understanding the actual business and
Mhm.
how cyber relates to the business itself seems to be lacking at every level, doesn't it?
Exactly. Yes, we get hung up on technical, and there's plenty sides. I tend to be right there. Yes, technical is good, but if we're all technical, then we're lacking the soft skills. Or when I attended the NICE conference, the chief people officer of CISSA called them power skills. And they are your ability to communicate with not only your manager, but on a higher level is extremely important. Communication, leadership, and business acumen.
It is, and it leads us nicely on to Mobile Mayhem's question. Do you feel that soft skills are enough to get your foot in the door in cyber?
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I'd like to say no at this point, right?
Yeah.
Because I think you need that technical knowledge, you need that technical understanding. But I've seen over the last 2 years more people with soft skills getting jobs than I have those with the
Bingo.
technical skills. Yeah. So I think maybe on its own, it shouldn't be enough to get a foot in the door. But I think we're all saying that if you've got a combination of those soft skills and some technical skills or some knowledge, it puts you ahead of others, right?
Right. So we have our technical skills. People can learn technical. So if you can teach yourself, and hiring managers are hiring on you being self-taught. So if you go and Google, spend some time on YouTube, learn the network infrastructure and the 7 layers, and even know how to talk about what DNS is or your security controls on a basic level. You can teach yourself that, and then but it's harder to teach soft skills. So if you're an introvert and you don't like talking to people, but that is required in your job, but you're not able to do that, it's going to cause you're not going to get hired if they're noticing that. So
But I want to just make something really, really clear here. I've
mhm,
seen completely introverted people
okay.
learn enough soft skills to get past those barriers. And I think, like anything, you can learn it, and it means putting yourself outside of the comfort zone. And I think perhaps that's why working with a career coach can massively help with that, right, Jessie? What would you do to help people with that?
We start in baby steps, right? My daughter, she's an introvert. She's a gamer. She's awesome. Um, but she started off ninth grade just not wanting, she didn't like it. And now she's class rep. I just have to brag about her a little bit.
Oh, congrats.
But for her to be leading and doing that, I gave her a few books to read. I also speak from experience. I think that that's the way we connect and build that trust. But for someone who is, oh gosh, I met one college student at a lunch and learn through ISSA over here. We have a monthly lunch and learn, and he was in the corner and just very afraid. And I go up to him and I just start talking to him, and he brightened up a little bit, and he kept on coming, and he messaged me and he goes, you like that's what I really appreciated. That not everyone's going to come up to you, but just a little bit of a hello, just go to that first meeting.
Yeah.
And even if you hang out in the corner and maybe shake one hand, give yourself props
Baby
for
steps.
starting. Yes, and that'll lead your first step will lead to the other, because you'll feel that little jolt, that bolt of confidence,
Yeah.
and that feeds the next one. And it's just celebrating your little wins, and they're big to you, and that's okay. I
I
mean,
think I think the celebrating part's super important. We our CISO experience events, we had one last week in Tampa. We usually have them exclusively for leaders
mhm.
in the community, but last week's was different, where we invited the Tampa Bay Techies, which is Samantha Ramos's organization. We invited them along as well, and we had a whole evening debate, an open mic debate about the challenges and opportunities of a modern CISO, where the CISOs answered the questions. And then at the end, our host for the evening, Steve Hindle, who's just simply amazing, he threw it over to the new talent in the room and
Right.
asked them to ask questions. And some of these people have never been in that kind of environment before. And you should have, it was amazing to see these people come out of their shells, start asking questions, start interacting with leaders. And the leaders looked a bit gobsmacked from some of the questions as well. Very surprised at what amazing talent there was lurking
It's
around the room.
there's so much opportunity. So if you think about it from a different perspective, thank you for sharing that, Simon. That's exactly what I'm seeing too. Here, conferences are everywhere. It can be a little overwhelming. I still have to go back, and like I can only stay for a few hours, and people are like, "Are you okay?" Because my eyes are glazed. Just like, I don't turn off, and I have to revamp it. But knowing your limits, starting off at an hour or two. But I showed up to my first cyber event by myself over and over, and it was weird, it was awkward, but you will get hired on the spot sometimes. I've seen
Yeah.
it. And so if you're applying to 100 plus jobs and you're not getting anywhere, show up to an event.
It's the definition of insanity is to continue
Yeah.
doing the same thing and expect different
Yeah.
results, right?
Right.
And I think you're right, pushing yourself out of that comfort zone. I'm not going to name names, but there was one person in particular who was just finishing their degree, and you could see the faces of the leaders in the room thinking, "Wow, we need to recruit this person." You know, and I think you're right. The opportunities that come from that are endless. We better go back to all the questions actually, because there's so many coming in. Let's have a look. What have we got? So Nueta, Brian, good to see you, Brian. It's been a long time. Brian was actually one of the first guests on my CISO Experience series, so it's really good to see you here, Brian. Nueta asked, I hope this question wasn't asked. However, I'm a recent graduate student whose degree isn't in cyber IT, has no technical job, and I'd like to know how you would network in the industry. So we were just saying, these leaderships events are one thing. They are invitation only, so that might be a bit more difficult.
Right.
But we've got B-sides all over the world that you can turn up to. Any other suggestions, Jessie?
I would say go to your local meetup group, meetup.com, I think it might be. A simple Google search for whatever's in your area. ISSA, we are an international, I sit on the board with our local chapter. Amazing, amazing group of people, leadership that just wants to pour into the next generation in the workforce, cyber workforce. So I would say start with that. Go to issa.org. You can go to ntxissa.org, and that's our local chapter, just to get a glimpse. We have weekly lunch and learns. We have yearly conferences, but I think that would be a good place to start. You don't have to be in cybersecurity yet to attend an event.
No.
It's a very welcoming community, as we can see here.
It is, and if you can't hit a physical event, I see Daniel, you're based from Italy. Join communities online. I mean, I'm obviously going to say join mine, but we've got over 5,000 now people around the world, all jumping in and helping each other, from CISOs down to those trying to break in. And there's plenty others. There's Simply Cyber. Can you think of any others?
Oh gosh,
there's so many, aren't
there? A lot. One thing I would recommend, a great way to get connected, as I started Bolt, the agency, I dedicated myself to learning cybersecurity at some level where I could talk it. And I woke up during, the pandemic early in the morning, and I was on webinars left and right. And so it's amazing what happens there. Even if you know nothing, you go on there and you go to the attendee list and you go and connect with everyone, because that is a warm connection. You have something in common and it's genuine. You can let them know that you're looking to get connected and learn more about the industry. And a lot of them are welcoming. And
it's got to be the most welcoming industry in the world. I mean, maybe I'm a bit biased because I spent 25 years in financial services, which is probably the least welcoming industry in the world. But the amount of people, leaders and below, who are happy to spend their spare time giving you guidance, again, is just phenomenal. Cody, good to see you, my friend. I'm going to bring your comment up now. Age should never stop you, regardless of how old or / young you are. You can learn anything, but you can't teach hard work and self-discipline. And I love that, Cody. Thank you very much. I mean, I will just give a shout out to my 18-year-old son, Sonny, who shows that it doesn't matter what age you are. He's beaten over 7,000 other applicants to a cybersecurity apprentice job at Aviva that he started 2 weeks ago.
Beautiful.
All the others were graduating from university. He just finished high school, but through his hard work, determination, and demonstrating what he can do, it's the hard work and self-discipline that's going to get you there, right?
That's excellent. I love this stuff, because so we take out, let's say we're not even talking about cybersecurity and getting a job in. We are talking about mindset at that point. Before we go into anything, we have to get it right here, and we have to understand that our thoughts and our ambitions and our goals have everything to do with our next step. And so it really is self-discipline, but
and it's making sure that you're doing it for the right reasons as well. I've seen a lot of people wanting to get into cybersecurity because they've been bombarded by the bullshit that's out there, that they can do a short course and earn 100 grand a year. I think for me, if it's just the money you're coming into this industry for, there are lots of easier things to do for a job than this.
So now we're talking, yeah. So by the way, we cyber it's being predicted, and people are starting to leave the industry. So if you don't know your why when you go in, if you don't develop a passion for it,
Yeah.
it's not easy. Once you're in there, you think, whew, but you got to remember why you're doing it, and really love what you're doing, because people need you, and we're in a gap, but we're about to be in a bigger one.
I
So
completely agree. And
yeah.
Liam was one of the younger people who were at our CISO experience event last week. And your comment there, the event Simon was speaking of was his first event in which he ended up joining a meetup group that opened the doors to more events for him to attend in the future. And Liam, you really held your own in that event as well, amongst lots of very important people.
That's
You
awesome.
you smashed it. Yeah, congratulations. It was great to see.
That is excellent.
It really was. Right, next question. We've got a few here. Paul Montgomery. Now, Paul, I know we've got a call coming up next week or two off the back of a conversation we had on LinkedIn. Spent 10 years as a coach. I would love a GRC role, but I feel a bit directionless post a boot camp. Haven't heard that before.
Ooh,
Advice on networking would be appreciated. Getting those replies is so difficult.
yeah,
Simon the exception. Thanks for that, Paul.
yeah,
It's just manners, right? If people
yeah,
reach out to you, the least you can do is reply.
yeah. Well, it's hard to do sometimes,
Yeah,
but yes, absolutely. And I would say, just to follow up regarding replies and reaching out directly to hiring managers and recruiters, it's there is some grace to be had,
yeah,
because they're getting bombarded, but that requires the opposite side. So, Paul, just to be consistent and get in front of them again, if you can, a few times. I mean, what takes 7 different attempts to get that one conversation? If I said that right, I don't know. That's if I quoted it right, but be persistent. But what is interesting to me, and I'd love to talk to you more about it, Paul. Um, you feel directionless post a boot camp. Interesting.
yeah.
I'm gonna filter some things there, but
Please don't.
oh,
It's so frustrating, right? I think from
they sell you, they oversell you, and
yeah.
I I think they're important, but be transparent,
And I think they can work. I think I suppose putting it into context. I've done boot camps before in different industries,
right?
and I've used boot camps as a way to build on my existing knowledge to get through an exam. So an example would be 20 years ago, I had to do an exam on trusts because I worked in that sector. I was really, really struggling getting through that exam. So I enrolled myself on a 2-week boot camp that helped me build on my existing knowledge and got me through that exam. Where I think they're being missold is when someone like me with no previous experience three years ago comes in and they say, do our 12 to 16 week boot camp. And at the end of it, we'll have you as a cyber professional, because it's just simply not true.
So you're excellent points, but I think that, so I don't guarantee a job. When I recruit for someone, if I go to market for a CISO directly, and if I'm coaching, I do not guarantee that person a job right out of the gate, because it is it's a hard industry to get into, and there's not a secret sauce. Where we go wrong as leaders in the industry, recruiters or not hiring managers, educators, which that's a topic there, but um, if we're not transparent right out of the gate, we are setting them up for, not for success. The student is going in with these false, these beautiful hopes, and I hear it all the time, all the time. I have my security plus, or I'm going to get my security plus, and then you're going to get a job. But what else are you doing? And I'm saying this out of love, but it's so much more than a boot camp. And if we don't, yeah. So I'll pause there. There was some, I wanted to say,
You don't want to say too much more. I completely understand
well, I,
that.
I have a lot to say, but I see things coming in. So
I think Itz's point as well is a good one. You see an awful lot of people on LinkedIn bragging about how many followers they've got, how many connections they've got. And I've never done that for one reason: quality over quantity all day long. Yeah.
yeah.
Do you
So
agree?
I agree. So I'm going to bring up something that's not talked about quite much lately, but I will be putting out content on it more and more. There's something called your social score, right? that I believe in predicting that will take over your resume. And it's starting to if you're looking at it. So, um, understanding your skill set, even if you're new, sharing value with your network on LinkedIn. So you learn something in your boot camp, whatever it might be, pose a question, talk about it, look up the cyber news, and share what you think about it, engage. But your network on LinkedIn, if it's only 300 people, you're not going to reach a whole lot of people. So you do need to grow, but skip the bragging, skip all that. I love that people get their certifications, but then what? You know, um,
Or
your social
how
media.
about the people who I've just noticed one of in here, and I'm not in the mood to suffer fools today, so I'm going to make a comment about this. What about the people who think that it's only those who with exploit development, who are real cyber people and not couch cyber people? Again, this is another form of gatekeeping that's
Yeah,
destroying some people coming into the industry.
gatekeeping is a big one, and being part of the cool kids group is
Yeah,
it. We have that here in Dallas, and I think it's great what it does for the community. But then what I believe, if you're seeing the same people over and over, you got to mix it up. You got
yeah,
to go outside. Don't, I guess, question who you are if you're not included in that group. If you're not invited to sit at the table, go create your own table. Like, go build it. It's okay. Like, you have value to bring, and if you start initiating and you do that, it's going to feel really weird and crazy. You're going to question yourself, but that's where growth happens and the most beautiful opportunities happen.
yeah.
So, yeah, there's clicks. You can't control that. Focus on what you can and what do you have to offer the marketplace. And I can help you with that. We can build on
And
that.
surround yourself with the right people, I think, is the
Yes.
biggest lesson in life, Jessie.
Get
Right?
the
I think
right.
from our previous discussions, off
Oh
not
gosh,
live, I
it's
think we've
everything.
both experienced being around the wrong people and what impact that can have on our lives. And
Absolutely.
it's no different in this industry.
I think that's a excellent point because we do have to lean on somebody. I'm talking to CISOs that are just, they don't know what to do. The cyber industry, it's not a pat on the back. You're not going to get words of affirmation and a good job. They expect more and it's never good enough. And there's
Yeah.
always fires to put out. And I mean, we are way behind right now. So it's not a feel good, but you do get things done. We do have to have someone on our side and in our corner to talk to. Simon, we had that one incredible conversation, and just when you can be vulnerable and candid with your people, have a mentor, have a coach. Yeah, you definitely want to
I
share.
agree, and I'm going to agree with you, Danny, with your follow up comment there. The cybersecurity community is saturated with people
Mhm.
who perhaps don't know what they're doing. But I would direct you back to the last 2 years of my content, where I'm perfectly honest that I'm not a cybersecurity expert. And the one thing I can say is that I have helped hundreds of people get jobs, even though I'm not. So, agreed, Danny, but equally know your audience, my friend.
Know your audience. Yeah. Yes.
Okay, let's see what other questions we've got in here. I think we've got another couple to bring up. Carl, here we go. What's he got? My background's in AppSec, but a recruiter reached out for a role in instant response because I know some Python. Any good resources to prepare for an interview? So this is about interview prep since I'm
Mhm.
out of my element.
Okay. How far are you out of your element? Um, because I think that this is a common um, problem that recruiters, they're not to say all recruiters are ignorant or they just do matchmaking words, but it's how well do they know the AppSec role? And Python is only one little bit. I mean, what is that job? And job descriptions they're being rewritten by recruiters. They're not, there's so much there. Um, she or he may not know about it. So how much of it do you really know? And if it's worth saying no to, say no to it.
Yeah,
Or I always encourage going on the interview anyway. Prepare if you don't know application security, go do a crash course and just use it for a test.
yeah.
You know, um, you learn when you fail. So if you don't feel, if you're,
Failing is the greatest teacher,
it
right?
is, it is. So if you're uncomfortable, I would question what is making you like, are you prepared, or you're looking for how to prepare for an interview overall? If you don't understand the job description, take it and shred it to pieces and look at every line.
Yeah.
That's how you learn. And yeah, if you're not an application security developer, then that may not be the job yet. But if you are, yeah.
I completely agree. So how can people get in touch with you, Jessie, if they want to take on a cyber career coach? What is the process? What do they do?
We start with a consultation. So you can we can go directly into a session, but I will offer anyone who's been on this call a 15-minute consultation. We'll go over a crash course on your life, where you are, where you need to be, and I will present a tailor-made program. Or if you want to do one-on-one, we'll make it work. Where I start, by the way, is where you are, and then where your mindset is, because if you're frustrated, we need to put a Band-Aid on that and treat that first before we go into the field.
Yeah.
And I understand there's a whole lot of frustration and like discouragement, and we need to address that before we go in and get our mind right. And then we go.
And just avoid the negative people. You know, you get that in every aspect of life. Yeah. And the one thing you have to do is, the one reason people make snipey comments and put other people down is because their own lives are pretty sad, and they're very, very sad people. So don't let people annoy you. Just use their snipery and digs to fuel your passion and make yourself succeed. And as Issa said, the trolls are coming in strong today. Don't be discouraged. If you're trying to break in, keep learning and developing your skills. There are plenty of opportunities.
It is definitely, some people get it within a few months. Some people, it does take a year. I've seen all, but it's persistence. It's becoming resilient and not stopping. I'm seeing all these wonderful comments come in.
Yeah, I mean, I think no one's saying that playing CTFs is gatekeeping, but if you're going to be in JRC, I don't know how playing the CTF is going to help you with that, Jaden. There's clearly a place for it for the right roles, but yeah, I'll let you carry on with your comments.
Cyberseek.org will help you in your career mapping. If you're wanting to get in GRC, and I'm happy to help, paint that map for you, but there's multiple career pathways to get into any role in cyber.
Let me drop a link in here for CyberSeek. And if people want to get in touch with you, Jessie, what's the best way for them to get in touch?
LinkedIn. There is if you go to my LinkedIn, message me and put in InfoSec Live first, so I can know that it's you and place you priority. Everyone's important, by the way. It's priority. Oh, we have to organize the chaos, right, in the inbox.
We certainly do. So talk to me about your biggest success, Jessie.
My biggest success.
Yes.
Oh, yay. Well, which one? No. Man, it's been a journey. I would say my biggest success has been staying in business for 5 years. So all that comes with it. It's, on the outside where I'm smiley and all of that, but it's just a freaking mess sometimes managing all of that. And we have to give ourselves a pat on the back. I'm not big on like flexing too much and like putting it out there. And there's imposter syndrome, right? Where am I really, like, is this happening right now? But building that resilience myself and like learning to practice what I'm preaching and put that into practice, because we forget, and just keeping on. It's, I didn't quit. I haven't quit yet. That I went from IT recruiter. I've been fired. I've been fired. That doesn't feel good to say, but I did it anyway, right? Like, whatever. To learn how to say, I've been fired and look where I am now.
I think I've been fired before. I mean, it's a while ago since I've been fired, but I remember it as one of the most liberating experiences I've ever had back in financial services, and it changed my perspective on life moving forward as well.
I think when we talk about success, it really depends on what your own definition is. Mine is really about overcoming, and it's doing it anyway. When I don't feel like it, I still do it anyway. If it's not working, so I moved 3 different times as an IT recruiter every year. And why did I do that? Because I knew I was mission focused and I wanted to do things differently. I didn't know I wanted to start a company, but I did. And now 5 years later, here I am. So for the ADHD person, you may not, you may go around in circles and all over, but if you hone in on what your skills are and what your purpose is and grow confident in that, then we can tailor that to fit.
That is the way forward, isn't it? Okay, so to wrap things up then, what would your advice be to anyone out there looking to get into the cybersecurity field? And don't say just do CTFs, it's the answer.
Oh dear, yes. So there's a world of its own. The pen testers and the hackers are in their own world, and I love them. I attend the Hack the Box and all that fun stuff. But start with, why do you want to get in cybersecurity? Have a little talk with yourself. Start journaling. I know it can sound a little, journaling, but write it out. Why do you want to? What appeals to you? And then what type of roles? Everyone is most likely going to start as an analyst, unless you are technical and you want to code or be a hacker. Start there. Start at CyberSeek. Get on a phone call with me, because it's like you're not going to go on a trip somewhere without your phone, I guess these days, your GPS, and say, you know what, I want to get out there. I've been wanting to go on a road trip, so I'm going to get in the car. How long are you going to be on that road trip before you finally decide where you're going?
Yeah.
That's a whole lot of waste of time. So, and you do that by discovering your strengths, what you're naturally good at, and then what you enjoy. And you put those together and you find a job in cyber. And then you start saying, what certs do I need? And bachelor's degrees aren't all, they're starting to. Yeah.
I'll be talking about bachelor's degrees now as well.
We can talk. I'm going to stop talking because we can talk about that.
I think there's a place for everything, right?
There
is. I enrolled on a bachelor's degree in cybersecurity with the Open University a few years back, and I've got to be honest, I haven't pursued it because a lot of it was irrelevant. However, speaking to a lot of the people in Tampa last week who were at the local university, it's a completely different course and it's pretty damn good. So again, you can't judge one by all of them, can you?
They're getting better. Some universities have more. We are also in a cyber educators gap, which I'm working with NICE to host a survey on that here locally. Just get a kind of a lay of the land there. We need more educators and we need more programs. It's not to say that we don't need those. We do. It's part of the process. But yeah, okay.
Oh, brilliant. Jessie, thank you so much for today.
I've enjoyed this. I feel like there's so much more to talk about.
There really is. And as Joseph says, you've got to bite your tongue sometimes, haven't you? Yes. It's the best way forward sometimes, Joseph.
I agree. Well, I have plenty to say. So follow me on LinkedIn, message me. Even if we're not going to coach together and do all that, I still want to be connected.
I think there's a couple of people in here who've also said that they're in the local area and they'd like to meet up. And I know a few people have already said they're sent connections as well. So Jessie, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Simon. I've enjoyed it. Thank you, everyone.
It's been brilliant. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Even the trolls, it's great to see you. And I hope your lives get slightly better than they are now. Have a great day, everyone. See you.
Thanks, Simon. Bye.
Thank you.